Welcome to the 12th video in this video series on running Rime of the Frostmaiden. In this video I'll be taking a look at Termalaine, one of the towns around Eldon in the northwestern part of 10 towns, and I'll be going over how you can prepare for and run the town so it becomes as easy and manageable for you, as well as more fun and entertaining for your players. I'll also be looking into how we can tie even more foreshadowing into Termalaine, making it a location that really makes the adventure pop and makes the story come together. First, a quick little welcome to anyone who's new here. My name is Jay Valeur and I've been making these videos on running Rime of the Frostmaiden, as well as putting out products such as a DM's guide and several articles on running Rime of the Frostmaiden. So it's sort of what I do, and what I want to do in this video is take a look at Termalaine in particular. So what I'll be doing is that I'll first give a quick overview of Termalaine, then I'll go into a little detail with the scenes that I'll be preparing, and then I'll add in all the details going over the stuff that I would want to change and how we can add a lot of extra foreshadowing into the location so that we tie Termalaine closer to the greater story of the adventure. Let's start with an overview of Termalaine. Termalaine is a decently sized town, has 600 inhabitants and lies by the Eldon in the northwestern part of 10 towns. It is relatively friendly and hospitable, at least compared to the other towns in 10 towns. The speaker in Termalaine is Oraus Matthew or Oris Matthew. There's a lot of ways to pronounce that one, and I'll probably do a couple of them throughout this video. He's a half-orc speaker who sort of inherited the speaker position from his parent, who was the speaker before retiring. There's also some political intrigue here, because speaker Oris Matthew isn't entirely popular with all of Termalaine. In particular, the militia seems to have it out for him and aren't really doing what he's telling them to. The town's militia itself consists of 50 tribal warriors and 4 veterans, so it's a rather small fighting force. Termalaine sacrifices warmth to our will and has rivalries with the other towns around Eldon. We get descriptions of 2 locations in Termalaine. There's a Blue Clam, as sort of a reference here, you might catch it, which is just a tavern where the locals come to kick back and relax, and there isn't particularly much going on here. We also have the Eastside, which is an inn run by a teenager who has a sick father. She also has a ring of warmth, which of course is quite useful, but there isn't otherwise too much going on here either. Finally, we have the quest, A Beautiful Mine, which is a complete adventure location that features kobolds, grills, and even a ghost, where the characters can go to clear out the mine and receive a reward of 50 gold pieces if they do so. Alright, so what I like to do is prepare a list of the scenes that I'm expecting to happen if I know that the characters are going to a town. In this case, if I know the characters are going to Termalaine, there's a couple of scenes that I will want to have ready. These are just notes, quick notes. They can be written down in a few minutes that will allow me to better improvise and run the scenes when the characters do get there. Alright, so the first scenes I'll probably want to prepare is a scene at the Blue Clam, the tavern, and the east side, this inn. These scenes will consist of just a few notes about the environment, perhaps a name or 2 of the patrons or innkeepers they can meet there, as well as some notes about the information the characters may be able to acquire, and maybe some ways we can foreshadow some events later in the adventure. If you've watched the video we did on Targus, you'll also remember that we had the speaker there, Nerth MacSildanar, who is a Zhentarim agent, express dissatisfaction with the speaker in Termalaine, and also perhaps giving the characters a quest to go there and oust the current speaker and instead insert a Zhentarim agent on the speaker position, although they may not know that he is a Zhentarim agent, of course. If you're following along with the plot hook, I would also want the characters to have the possibility to meet with a Treacherous Officer from Termalaine's militia, which we will call Lieutenant Scarron, but you could call this NPC, who is a complete addition to the adventure, anything you want to. Finally, we also have the A Beautiful Mine quest, which of course will take up most of the play in Termalaine. There's a couple of encounters and scenes and locations here, with the most important ones being the encounter with the grill in the mine, as well as the encounter with the kobolds and Trex, who is possessed by a ghost. Finally, I'll also want to prepare a scene for when the characters return to Termalaine after having hopefully successfully cleared out the A Beautiful Mine quest, and sort of get their reward and see if there's some fallings out after that. Alright, next up we'll go into more details with these scenes, looking at how we can prepare for them, what I would maybe change or add in to perhaps enhance some of the parts of Termalaine. As the characters arrive in town, I will probably describe the town to them. It's a picturesque town. It has Khalishite architecture, which I'm envisioning sort of as an Arabian-inspired architecture with carvings of jinns and sort of exotic creatures and so on. And I'd also let the characters know that the town maybe doesn't seem as downtrodden as Targus if they've been there already, or Bremen, who's really hurting. If any of the characters are local, they may already know about the Blue Clam and the Eastside, but if not, it's probably just the taverns or inns I would describe to them if they tell me that they're looking for an inn or tavern, or if they're just wandering about town. Alright, so let's start off with the Blue Clam, which is this cozy tavern where the locals go to kick back and get the warmth back in their fingers once they're done with a busy day. It's also where the characters can meet or smash you and get a beautiful mind quest, but I'll cover the quest in a few minutes, so we'll just hold back on that. For now, I want to focus on the information that the characters may be able to learn in the Blue Clam. If the characters haven't been to Lonelywood yet, I think that Termalaine is a good place for them to get steered in that direction. You can do this by having local loggers discuss how they can't go work up by Lonelywood anymore after there's been these attacks by the White Muse. If the characters inquire about it, they can get the explanation that you would sort of find under Lonelywood, that a White Moose has been going around acting aggressively, attacking loggers and other locals in and around Lonelywood. If the characters are also looking for Sefikhaltro and Torque's caravan, you can have them discover that the caravan hasn't been through town lately, at least if you want to hold off on them actually discovering where Sefikhaltro is until we can use the caravan to guide them to Caerconic, as we've gone over in previous videos. There'll be a little bar up here directing you to that one. Finally, if the characters inquire about frost druids, they may have heard about them up by Bremen or through rumors we've been spreading throughout the previous towns the characters have been through. They can also learn that there has been frost druids in Termalaine recently. In fact, there's been two. A couple of months back, a frost druid came through town. This would be Vernus, the now dead frost druid the characters can find in Lonelywood's elven tomb, who came through town trying to convince the townspeople to begin making human sacrifices to her will, which they rejected, making her mad and causing her to go northward toward Lonelywood. Not long after, another frost druid, and this would be Ravison, Vernus' sister, who is still alive, also in the elven tomb up by Lonelywood, who came by looking for her sister who had been there a few weeks previously. The locals at the Blue Clam wouldn't know too much about where she went and what happened with her, but they know that she spent some time over at the Eastside, which we'll cover in just a minute. Alright, so that takes us to the Eastside. This is an inn divided into several different buildings that are connected through underground tunnels, so that's a pretty interesting concept. And it's run by this teenager, Marta, whose father, Clyde, has been very sick recently, leaving her to take over business. She also has this ring in a necklace around her neck. Where else would a necklace go? That is a ring of warmth, which of course is quite valuable in an environment such as Icewind Dale. Now the book tells us that Marta's grandparents got this ring from a mysterious woman some 50 years ago who left the ring with them, but were torn away suddenly by a wind or maybe an invisible stalker or something like that. But we aren't really told what exactly happened here, and I can't figure out what this is referencing, but if you have any good ideas or know what it's referencing, please sound off in the comments down below. For now, we don't need to make a concrete conclusion to every little mystery, so this can just be a weird tale that the characters hear about something that happened 50 years ago. We can, however, tie the ring closer to the story by having Marta explain how a frost druid that came through town a while back looking for her sister, now this would be Ravison looking for Vernus, asked about the ring and seemed to be affronted by her having a ring that could sort of stave off the cold. Back then it was of course her father who had the ring, and the frost druid got so angry that she stormed out and left, apparently going up towards Lonelywood, which is sort of where we maybe want the characters to go next. Unbeknownst to Marta and her father, the frost druid first cursed Clyde which is why he has declined so rapidly, or at least that's something, a spin we can put upon that. And if you remember, and if you've seen the video about Bremen, you'll remember that we did the same with the speaker up there, where a frost druid became very angry with the speaker and cursed him. So anyway, if the characters take an interest in Marta's ring, you can have them notice how she wears the ring in a necklace and hear her song as the book suggests. She may offer the ring to the characters if they can help get her father back to health again. Now the characters may be able to do this with spells such as Lesser Restoration or Remove Curse, but if those spells aren't available, there is another way to do it, which would sort of include the Ghost Jant, which we'll discuss later in A Beautiful Mine. It's mentioned in passing that the Zhentarim, based out of Targus, have designs on the speaker position in Termalaine. If the characters have spoken to Speaker Nerth Maxildanar in Targus, he may have given them the name of such one treacherous officer, which is Lieutenant Scarin, or you can call him whatever you want, which we could have be a skinny, seedy-looking, gaunt half-elf who is not particularly trustworthy. The characters may be able to find Lieutenant Scarin in the guard's office, which should just be a small squat building with a few soldiers in it, and then of course Lieutenant Scarin, who is a veteran soldier, or they can be approached by Scarin after receiving the quest to go look for the A Beautiful Mine. In any event, Lieutenant Scarin has an offer for the characters. He wants to become the speaker, and to do that, he of course needs to contest the election of Oris Masdew. So to get some popularity, because right now it's just maybe half of the militia is on Scarin's side, and he wants to move the population of Termalaine to his side. He wants the characters to go clear out the A Beautiful Mine. This is of course the same that Speaker Oris Masdew wants, so if the characters have already received a quest from the speaker, you can have Scarin just double the reward, saying that if the characters can clear out the mine and help him get elected as the new speaker, he will give them 100 gold pieces instead of just 50, which is what Speaker Oris Masdew has to offer. Even though Lieutenant Scarin has the loyalty of some of the militia, he won't be able to send any of them with the characters because he doesn't want to give them what is considered a unpopular suicide mission. So he'll lose their support and instead wants to rely on the characters, whom he of course has little love or other use for. Whichever way you do it, this sort of creates some political intrigue where the characters will have to choose between who they're performing the quest for and who they want to see elected as speaker, with Oris Masdew of course being a quite friendly guy who's probably also a pretty good speaker if he could only get the militia to do what he tells them to, and Lieutenant Scarin being a more suspicious sort but with a bit of a reward and tied to the speaker in Targus, whom the characters may already have spoken to. Alright, so that brings us to the A Beautiful Mine quest. As the book suggests, you can just have a townscrier or a rumor the characters have already heard lead the characters to the Blue Clam, where they can speak with Oris Masdew, get the quest, and perhaps also get it from Lieutenant Scarin, as we have just discussed. Now you can run the mine pretty much as written if the characters are around second level, so what I'll be going over here is just the modifications that I think you need to make, and perhaps some thoughts you can have about how to adjust the adventure to your characters, as well as how we can use Trex or Jant, who is possessing Trex, to foreshadow some things in the adventure. One thing I think it's important to be aware of is that the characters may be swept off towards their death in area M3, where just a single fail save will result in a character being dragged down through this hole in the mine and dying. So that's obviously not pretty fun, just failing a single save and then dying. So you may want to have the character or allow the character or a nearby character to quickly hold on and save the character with a DC 10 athletics check or something similar to that. There's also a Psi crystal in the mine, which is this crystal that can direct the characters to the Id Ascendant, which is a location in Chapter 2. If the characters are still low level and perhaps not ready to go there just yet, you want to finish up in 10 towns first, you can maybe hold off on it actually emitting this distress signal to any character that attunes to it. This could simply be because there's a limited range on the signal, so the character won't be able to hear it before they get closer to Id Ascendant, which would be when they head out into Icewind Dale at some point during Chapter 2. Another factor in the mine is the Grell, which is this Underdark creature that sneaks about and tries to maybe attack a character who's on their own. Now, what I would suggest is that you use the grill to balance the encounter or the location. A grill can be pretty dangerous for a low-level character, especially if encountered alone, so if the characters are already sufficiently pressured by everything else going on in the mine, the kobolds are giving them trouble, the rats and the ghost and so on, you don't need to introduce the grill at all. You can simply have it slither away to the Underdark or not make its presence known in any way. But if the characters are having a very easy time in the mine, you can of course use the grill as described in the book, having it ambush a character who goes off on their own, or perhaps have the characters run into it. I think it's important though that you don't have the grill attack a character that is all the way on their own, but keep it reasonably close to the rest of the party so that they have a chance to hear and see this attack happening and come to the other character's aid. Because even if the characters are second or third level, a grill against a single character is hardly a fair encounter and could end up with a dead PC, and again, we don't want that. We just want to scare the characters and the players a little. Finally, there's Trex and his kobolds. There's a pretty good description of the encounter in the book and how you can run it, but I think there's some ways we can perhaps add a bit more to it. First off, having Jant, the ghost that's possessing Trex, be just a random sage seems like a wasted opportunity. What you could do instead is have Jant be a low-level member of the Arcane Brotherhood, this organization of wizards that has come to Icewind Dale to find Uthrin, the Netherreach necropolis described in the book. So what we would change here is that Jant came a few months ago instead of a few years ago, and that he has come perhaps just before or together with the other wizards that have arrived in Icewind Dale. Now, Jant, for his part, isn't too interested in the Netherreach necropolis and perhaps doesn't even know much about it. He mostly came here because it was an opportunity to study the flora and fauna of a new place, which is his passion, as the book describes. But you can use this information as sort of a bargaining chip to get a more diplomatic resolution to the encounter by having Jant offer that he knows a way to end this everlasting winter, or perhaps say that there's dangerous people in Icewind Dale you need to know about. If you help me get back to Termalaine and come into possession of a better body, or just help him if the character still thinks he's actually a kobold, I can give you information about both perhaps a way to end the everlasting winter and also these other people that are likely to know more about it. So he would probably not know too much. We just want to give a hint about Uthrin. He may not even know its name, just that the Arcane Brotherhood sent out its wizards to look around Icewind Dale for an ancient Netherreach necropolis, and as far as he knows, this place crashed down into Icewind Dale long ago and supposedly held the powers to control the weather, but he doesn't, again, know too much about it. There are some people who do, however, and he can perhaps give the characters both names and descriptions of the other 4 wizards from the Arcane Brotherhood that have arrived in 10 towns. This is just a way we can have the characters learn just a bit about the final location of the adventure, as well as some ways they can learn more, which would be seeking out this Arcane Brotherhood. If you want to go another route or just give Jant even more bargaining power, you can also have him explain how he's a very capable healer using herbal remedies and these other flowers and stuff that he's been collecting around Icewind Dale. He may even have a solution for Clyde, which is the parent of Marta in the Eastside, have a solution for his remedy and may be able to heal him back up, which would get the characters the ring reward that they may have heard about if they spent some time over at the Eastside. As for running an encounter with the kobolds and the ghost, you should know that a ghost is a very hard encounter for characters of second level or lower. This can be fixed by aiming for a diplomatic resolution instead, such as having Jant, the ghost, really try for a diplomatic solution once Trex is killed and it becomes clear that he's not a kobold but instead a ghost. You can also make it easier for the characters to discover that destroying the satchel will kill the ghost by letting a character with high insight or high perception notice how the ghost or the kobold seems very protective of this satchel, which would probably clue them into how they can maybe defeat the ghost without actually defeating it. Finally, there's the character's return to Termalaine. Now, there's a pretty good description of this in the book, so I won't go into too much detail, but just add in a few things here and there. First off, if the characters clear the mine on behalf of Speaker Orist Matthew, he'll of course be happy with them, and he'll be able to secure the popularity that he needs to continue to be the speaker for a little while more at least. If the character has completed the quest on behalf of Lieutenant Scarron, he'll quickly make an announcement that adventurers whom he hired have cleared out the mine and use this as a platform to call for a new election in town where he will handily beat Speaker Oris Masju unless someone intervenes on the speaker's behalf. If the characters brought the kobolds back to town, you can do as the book suggests with them, but you can also use this to foreshadow the Arcane Brotherhood if you haven't already. This is an idea that someone commented, so I can't take ownership of it, but I think it's a really good idea to have Velin be present in town or coming through shortly after to maybe offer to hire these kobolds if the town is sort of wary about having kobolds running around. Alright, so that wraps up this video on running Termalaine in Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. As always, I'd like to give a big thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/eventyr, and especially Ian Russell, who is the first legend patron and therefore gets a named shoutout. Thank you, Ian, for supporting us. Being a patron isn't just about supporting us, of course, we also like to give something back, so over the next weeks and months, we are putting out more ice and cold themed monsters, adventures, and magic items that you can use to enhance your Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign. So if you want to check that out, you can head over to patreon.com/eventyr and sign up for the Patreon. We'd love to have you. Of course, there's also all the usual YouTube stuff, so if you've lasted this long, you've probably liked the video, so leave a like and subscribe and follow along and all that. We'll be putting out more videos on running Rime of the Frostmaiden. Again, I can't promise that I'll cover each town. These videos take quite a bit of time to get made, and I don't want the people actually running the adventure to overtake us more than they already have. So we may skip some of the towns later, but I think they will be heading into Lonelywood next, and then we'll see what happens from there. In any event, I'm happy to have you. I'm glad you followed along, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.